Capitals, more like Slapitals.
Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche post-game show brought to you by Bet365. We are live from the Toyota Lounge. Rudo and Bailey here to celebrate after an Avs matinee win. They take the Washington Capitals 3-2 in overtime. Brock Nelson with that game winner. They can win while there's still daylight outside.
It can happen. They are allowed to win. I guess it's not the morning, but it's close.
Yeah, we got pretty close. They decided to drag it out for overtime, but it's still light outside. It's still morning to me.
I'm down for that take.
Sleepy one.
Very.
From these guys.
Very.
Managed to pick up at least something in the third period, and overtime looked pretty sound. But, I mean, for the most part, if you can get 2 points out of a game like that, you're pretty happy.
Yeah, we have to do an hour-long show, so we'll get into all the details. But the overall outcome is the Avs won. Do I care how? Not really.
No.
They got the 2 points.
Yep. So, easy as that. Like Rudo said, we'll break it all down here. But first, let's go ahead and hit that 60-second rundown.
I don't think you can say the Avs did much through the first two periods of this game. It genuinely felt like you were watching a hockey game being played at like three-quarter speed for both teams, to be fair. A lot of sloppiness. The ice was terrible, so just not a lot clicking for either team. Washington does get on the board first in the first period. A breakaway play that kind of slips in behind the Avs, and it's a nice finish up top over Blackwood's glove. That would be the only goal in the first two periods, and shots were 15-14 after the second period, so just low event hockey. And then the third period happens, and the Avs wake up a little bit, or maybe a mistake from Logan Thompson wakes them up. Nate just picks off a pass from him, and it's an open net for Gabe Landeskog to dump one into to tie it. And shortly after, Nick Waugh finds a puck out in the middle of the ice and finishes to give the Avs a 2-1 lead. Then Washington answers on the power play. Ovi gets his 1,000th goal. We'll talk about it. Overtime was great, though. The Avs dominated a game they were not really outworking Washington in overtime, they absolutely did, and Brock Nelson is the one that gets rewarded with the game winner.
Yeah, easy as that. And that's kind of the first thing I want to touch on, too, is you get a lot of depth out of a game like this. Nick Waugh gets on the board. That second line was a little bleh.
Yeah, it was not
for
very
this
good.
Entire game. So it's a little, I think, poetic, maybe in a way, that it is Brock Nelson that ends things here.
And that's great for Brock. The actual scoring of the goal is not very difficult for him. That's a tap-in, but he does the right things, makes the right plays to get to the back post and be an option for Marty Necas on that play to score. And kind of a saving grace for the really... In regulation, the only guy in the top six I really liked was Necas. Landy was in the top six,
Landy was good,
too.
yeah.
But, Kadri was moving up and down the lineup, didn't notice him a ton. Val didn't look great in a lot of aspects tonight. Nelson really didn't look good right up until he won the game for them. It was a little bit tough with the Avs top six as a whole, and even McKinnon looked pretty sleepy through a decent portion of this game. And the Avs are able to overcome that, which I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Avs played a great game, and they didn't. This was probably like a C game. Washington also kind of played a C game. Welcome to matinees. But the Avs found a way to get it done, and part of that is Brock Nelson stepping up. The other part of that, as you mentioned, they do get depth goals properly in this game. They've needed one for a while. Very nice.
Yep. I think it's interesting because obviously there's a lot more context to the sleepiness of this game, it being that kind of early morning start.
Yep.
Yes, it's 12:30 over there for them, but Maybe they're still working on mountain time. I do think it's interesting, though, when you have games like this that tend to be on the sleepier side, there's at least a couple guys in your top superstar, coalition that go sleeping. Nathan MacKinnon, as you mentioned, who really was not super noticeable in a game like this. 0 points.
Yep.
I mean, how much does that contribute to the on ice product?
Yeah, it's a lot. I think more than anything, it's not necessarily the 0 points, although it's Nathan MacKinnon. You do expect points there, but you look at the shot totals in this game, and Nathan MacKinnon didn't have 0 shots, but for a guy who is the engine in a lot of respects for getting shot totals up into the high numbers for the Avalanche, didn't do enough of it tonight.
You'll be interested to know just one shot on goal for Nathan MacKinnon.
He had a couple of other attempts that missed, but
one registered shot on goal.
One shot on goal for Nathan MacKinnon is just about as sleepy as it gets for him.
It's bad, and I'm not going to loop Brent Burns into this because he comes from a lot of systems that are shot
High
volume type shot systems. It's interesting when Josh Manson is out shooting you.
Yeah, that's not a guy that should be out shooting Nathan MacKinnon.
No. So, I don't know. Like that shot volume is interesting to me too, because you come off of a game in Chicago where you hit the almost 50 shot mark. Like it's you're peppering everything on a goaltender like Soderblom, and it's making his job increasingly difficult. But there are multiple times during this game, and we'll talk more in depth about Mackenzie Blackwood later, but when in a game like this where you're only totaling 24 shots, you can't really put that on a guy like Mackenzie Blackwood. You need to be able to go and score. You need to be able to finish. You need to be able to find your way around a goaltender like Logan Thompson.
Yep. They ultimately got there, maybe with a little bit of help from mistakes, but never complain about the other team's mistakes. Good job taking advantage of them. Blackwood, I have literally 0 problems with in this game.
Yeah.
Save percentage over 900. And the goals that are scored on him are a literal breakaway and an Ovechkin power play goal.
Yep.
And sure, if you want to say, hey, I'd like one of those saves, I can live in that world. But even if you'd like one of those saves, your goalie gives up 2 or less, he did his job.
Yeah. Also feel like I have to talk about it too before we get to our first ad break. Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah.
Scores his 1,000th goal.
It's fun.
I feel like we would not be, yes, we are an Avs podcast, but we would not be fans of hockey if we did not acknowledge, how cool that is.
Yeah, the Avs win, so it gets to be a nice little footnote of also, Ovi scored his 1,000th goal. That's cool. I've said it many times on this show. I said it in the pregame. That is the greatest goal scorer ever to live.
Yep.
Enjoy that the Avs got to be part of a moment in his history that will likely live on highlight reels forever.
Oh, gosh, yeah. That's a fun one when you can see him, celebrate that. It is unfortunate how it comes off, too. It's one of those kind of what can you do type Landy penalties. Where how mad can you really be at that one? I'm struggling to be mad at all with the entirety of the Avs penalty kill. They kill 4 of 5. Is it a wild situation? Their systems break down and Alex Ovechkin is the guy you leave open. Not great, but also for the most part, their PK was great tonight. And then you gave one up. I don't know if we want to talk about it now, but let's do it.
Yeah. The problem isn't the penalty kill. The problem is the discipline.
Yeah.
And are a couple of those calls soft? Absolutely. But you can't keep doing this to yourself if you're the Avs. It felt like they had a couple of games where they're starting to take less penalties. They're starting to figure that out. And then you take 5 penalties tonight. You can't. 4 excellent PKs. All you have to do is not take that one extra penalty, and we're praising the penalty kill as excellent, and the Avs probably win this game in regulation. You just have to find a way to not get called for those knick-knack penalties that, for whatever reason, this year the Avs are getting called a little bit tighter than I think some other teams are. It is what it is. Do I like it? No, but that's the reality you live in, and you have to work in that reality, and the Avs have to find a way to not put themselves in the basement when it comes to those types of situations. You get away with it today. Obviously, you end up getting the win. You don't care at all about giving Washington a point, so it's fine. But a lot of the things in this game, I think, were a great gut check for the Avalanche. I think they deserve a lot of credit, even if they didn't play their best in finding a way to win this game. They also need to do a better job of not making life so hard.
That's where I get stuck is, yes, the penalty kill looked good 4 out of 5 times today, but you've seen the rhythm this team can fall into. It's not going to look like that every single night. That is unrealistic, and that's not something I imagined myself saying after the beginning of the season, where it looked incredible, and that is the expectation that they are setting on when they're down a man. I struggle with this because it's become such a complacent approach for this team, and if this is the way that they're going to approach the power play or the penalty kill, like, one, how much better does that get when you're at full strength?
It
but
would
also,
help.
Right. But also, like, I mean, it's not something you really want to get into a habit of, taking that many penalties when you're this close to the postseason, and that could make or break a game for you.
Yeah. Look, any game, and when you're up 1 in the third period, obviously not all penalties are created equal. Sometimes you can take one that was worth it, but the Avs took 2 penalties with less than, 12 minutes left in the game when they got their lead, something like that, maybe less than that. Mm-hmm. Either way, you have to kill 2 penalties off after you get a lead in the third period. That's just not hockey that's going to lead to success. Everybody knows that. That's not a complicated proposition. When you're leading in the third period, rule number 1, don't take dumb penalties.
That helps.
The Manson one, again, I think was really soft, but hey, you got to figure it out. And the Landy one, Landy actually I thought was very good today, but that penalty is one that you just have to avoid. And yes, should they probably have called it embellishment? Almost certainly on the Capital player, but don't give them the chance. Don't allow the refs the opportunity to screw you over, because that's just putting yourself in a hole.
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm of 2 minds of it too, because power play also doesn't look great today. Power play is kind of iffy, and I'm of the mindset, like, if one's gonna look bad, the other has to look impeccable, or at least, okay. And allowing that goal on Alex Ovechkin, I mean, on one hand, it's Alex Ovechkin, but, like, also, you expect the PK to be perfect if you're going to put on a power play that looks maybe not as great as they did today.
Yeah, and I'm really not that upset with the power play. The second one was truly a terrible power play, like awful, but you go 0 for 2, that happens in hockey games. The power play's been pretty darn good. Post-Olympic break, as I've talked about, I don't think that I'm causing concern about a night where you go 0 for 2 in a game where the Avs were pretty rough around the edges, we'll say, at 5-on-5 too.
Yep.
The penalty kill, again, yes, you end up losing the special teams battle, but if you don't take that last penalty, you're saying the penalty kill is perfect, 4 for 4. And all 4 of those PKs were, like, great. Washington struggled to even get into the zone against those 4. But you wore yourself down and took 1 too many penalties, and it cost you. And as I always like to say on the show, teams are supposed to score in the power play sometimes. You give them enough, one's going to beat you.
Yep.
An 80% power play it's not all world, but it's good. Like, you're hard to be upset about an 80% power play if that's what you're doing across the course of the season. It happens. I don't think the Avs should overthink anything about their special teams based on this one game.
No.
Other than stop taking penalties.
This really is one of those games, like, we're not sitting here complaining about it. We're not sitting here praising it. Like, it truly is, like, average middle of the road type game from them, which I'm not, like, if that's the conversation we're having earlier in the season, like, I'd love that.
Yeah.
But no, it's fair fair situation from them. All 3 goals were scored at even strength. Want to get into some of those, but first, we do have to take our first break of the show.
Yeah, we have multiple sponsors to shout out to today, including the fantastic folks over at Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR, the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche. We were talking about it during the watch along even.
I want a 4Runner.
4Runner. Tiff says that RAV4. I like small cars.
Fair.
So just give me like a Toyota Corolla or something. I'm good.
It'll get you where you need to go and reliably do it.
It's easy to park, all right? That's why I need a small car. Whatever vehicle you're looking for, Toyota has it. The ones we mentioned, but also trucks, like the Tacoma, the Land Cruiser. 17 different models with all-wheel drive. 16 different hybrid vehicles to choose from, even hybrid trucks like the Tundra iForce Max. Whatever you need at your local Front Range Toyota stores got you covered, including AutoNation Toyota Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Group Toyota Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, again, the official vehicle of DNVR and the Colorado Avalanche. Toyota, let's go places.
And then we've also got some situations. If you need a car that reliably gets you where you need to go, maybe that is over to Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers to get your checks and make sure you are as healthy as you can be. For decades, you've stood by your team through every season, every setback, every comeback, wearing that worn-in jersey, cheering from the same lucky seats. It's not just about the team. It's about the family, the legacy, the love of the game. At Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers, we get that kind of loyalty because we've been here for more than 30 years, standing with Colorado families, treating more adults with cancer than anyone else in the state. So when life gets tough, we never stop showing up. March, for you, those who may not be aware, is Colon Cancer Awareness Month, a month that sits really, really close to my heart. Lost my grandfather to colon cancer, something that runs in my family, so I'm really big on getting those checks, and make sure you guys are getting those checks too, as it is. If you're going to do it in a month, do it in March, where that awareness is up and at it. We're teaming up with Rocky Mountain Cancer Center to ask one important question. Have you guys been screened lately? Don't drop the ball. This could be the biggest catch of your life. Rocky Mountain Cancer Center is the official sponsor of Denver sports fans. Head to RockyMountainCancerCenters.com to learn more. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche postgame show, brought to you by Bet365. We got 3 stars to dig into here tonight. It is today. Fun little lineup for you guys. And 3rd star, who else other than the returning man himself?
Had to get Gabe on here one way or another. Back in the lineup. Avs win when Gabe's in the lineup. That's just how it works.
Back in the lineup, back on the score sheet.
Yes, not one that's going to make the highlight reel for Gabe.
Nope.
A very easy goal, but a goal is a goal. And you do need to look at that and say, hey, maybe there's something to Gabe Landeskog being on the ice for the Avs' first goal of the game. Maybe there's something to a little bit of, if that's a different lineup, if you have someone who's feeling a little bit sleepier tonight on that line, maybe they aren't there and ready in position just in case the turnover comes to Natchez. Yeah. Maybe that's a puck that just floats through the middle to a capital player. But Gabe is there, ready for it. And then I could have scored the ultimate goal that goes in, but I would not have been in position to score that goal. And that's why he's Gabe Landeskog and I'm a bum. So
I do think it's interesting in talking about the last couple games and somebody's presence you're really, really missing. And in a game like this that is very sleepy, that is not as high octane as you're used to seeing the Avs play, Gabe Landeskog's one of the most noticeable guys out there. Was working 100%, winning board battles, going in, fighting for pucks, controlling pucks better than most of the Avalanche forward core for a lot of the night. Yep. That was the guy with a little bit of jump, a little bit of jam, and you need that. That's the exact, actually not the exact thing. We talk so much about his qualitative stuff. That is on-ice quantitative quality hockey that if Gabe is bringing that, boy, watch out. When the Avs are good, they're scary good. If Gabe is doing the leading by example too. Fun to watch on a night where there was not a lot of fun things to watch. Yeah. And you wonder what Landy does, because you see him not on that first line, which is something Bednar's mentioned, really liking in the past. Putting Landeskog next to Nathan MacKinnon, who maybe could have used an adult today that was not Valeri Nichushkin.
Yeah, someone needed to do it, and it wasn't It wasn't McKinnon. Natchez did play very well, but he's not an adult. Kadri's not really an adult, right? That guy wants to play too much offense to be a real adult.
Fair.
So it was immediate babysitting time for Gabe Landeskog back with the team, and he did the job.
No. And this is this situation, right, where they start playing with the lineup a little bit, trying to figure out. I mean, we saw it at the beginning of this game while playing really his first full game at center.
Yep. And properly in the Avs' depth.
Right. So it works out. And I would like to see eventually where Landy ends up on the score sheet. Or not on the score sheet, on the lineup sheet. Down the stretch. Ultimate difference maker.
Yeah.
No other way to put it. Second star of the night. I mean, who else other than Brock Nelson who netted that game winner?
If you have followed the podcast for a long time, you know that I like to give stars to players who maybe didn't have a good game, but then come up with a big play. Mm-hmm. And that's what Brock Nelson is here. Yep. A guy who I really did not like much of this game for him. He felt like he was one of the guys skating through mud through a lot of the game, and puck management wasn't working for him. You saw a guy who's a very consistent puck on net shooter was whiffing on pucks tonight. There was a lot of meh in that game. And that's not just Brock. That's a lot of guys. But Brock is the one who ultimately shows up when you needed it. An overtime period where, is the ultimate goal a tap-in? Totally. But look at the rest of that overtime. Brock Nelson and the rest of the guys out there, he's kind of their champion of, they just dominated that thing. Mm-hmm. They went out and said, oh, right, we're supposed to win. We're going to work harder than Washington. We're going to collect all the pucks. We're going to shoot all the pucks on net. And we're going to be the better team. And then they were. And then Brock Nelson goes to the back post and does the thing that Colorado Avalanche players have not done this year.
It's not very successful for them.
They've been horrible on the backdoor play, and Brock Nelson made that one look easy. So, good. That's how you find a way to be an effective hockey player, even in a game where maybe things are a little bit sleepy, maybe things are a little bit rough. When you find a way to make an important play in those games, that's what winning looks like. You're not going to go out and play your best game every day. You're not going to have your best shift every shift. It's about what you do on the next one. And Brock has that mentality of, I'll get the next one.
Yeah. And you can really appreciate that from the guy who is your second line center. He's somebody we've had a lot of qualms with recently, who's been a little more quiet than you'd expect your second line center to be.
Yeah, for sure.
And yes, games like this are maybe a little more aggravating when you're looking for more out of more of your guys, especially your second line, especially guys who are normals on your second line. But situations like this make it a little less frustrating for me. It's a lot like our Nathan McKinnon situation. Yeah. He goes and scores points, but those frustrating moments are very frustrating. Well, Brock Nelson's shown that he has what it takes. He knows what he needs to do to go and ultimately finish.
And results shape these conversations, right? If the Avs don't score there and they go on to lose this game, we're sitting here on the post game and we're railing on that second line, saying it was not good enough. That's the guys you need more out of. But instead, one of those second line guys shows up and makes the play. So that is, in fact, good enough. Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of a guy who really was good enough for pretty much the full 60, or at least somewhat close to it, Martin Necas, that first star, 2 assists. It's especially looking at overtime, which I want to touch on more in a little bit too. Martin Necas, pretty complete game.
Pretty definitively the best player for either team in this game, I think. Consistently pushing play, threatening offense, willing to put himself in dangerous situations. Obviously, the production comes from 2 assists, but also was a legitimate shooting threat at times that kept Logan Thompson honest. And a guy that just did the job. I really like that this is the second game in a row that Marty Necas is doing this, because we all know the conversation. He disappears in big games. Kind of disappeared in the Dallas game. Okay, that sucks. But you look at the rest of his games post-Olympic break, and it's like, cool. He might have had a bad game against Dallas, but that didn't put him into the streaky down slope that you're afraid of where he disappears for 10 games. Nope, he went right back to it, is doing the job. And when Marty Necas is setting up Gabe Landeskog for free goals, you love it. What's not to love about that?
No, it's hard to be mad at that.
Yeah.
Like in a game where people are struggling to show up, Marty Necas is saying, "Hey, I'm right here."
Yeah.
That's what I love about him as a player is like you've got the streakiness, yes, and that is also another little frustrating pinpoint on this team. But in the moments that matter, I mean, we were just talking about shots on goal. He's a guy who had two shots on goal
Only
tonight,
two,
which
but
not the best. But when you're looking at most of those top guys having a bit of a down night, that's not like it's on pace, right?
And again, he also had a couple that missed the net, which everyone in this game had that problem. Washington also missed like a billion shots. But with Necas, the conversation of who he is as a player, as much as I want him to shoot more than he does, he's always looks to be a pass-first player. And if he's doing enough with his shot to at least have the goalie respect it, and then is making assists, the landing one's cool, but it's more hard work than a really nice play. But the assist to Brock Nelson is A+. That's a high-skill, high-level play. Kept the goalie honest so he can't cheat on Brock, so he doesn't get over and get the pad save or whatever. And that's great. That's just as good as scoring a goal.
Yeah. It's a point at the end of the day. Like that's what it amounts to, and it's a point that really starts to set the pace for this Avs team.
Yep.
So.
And then the other side of this is this game the final nail in the coffin for 3-on-3 overtime of like, you never put him with McKinnon? Like Marty is winning you overtime games away from Nathan McKinnon?
If you can, I've been of this mindset from the get-goes. If you can separate that a little bit, there is no doubt that they are lights out when you put them on a line together 5-on-5. No doubt about they just work that well together. They read off of each other well. Transitions are like impossible to stop when they are together. But when you get into the nitty-gritty 3-on-3, you've got an adult with him in Brock Nelson.
Yep.
You don't see Cale Makar there with him. You take him off, and Devon Taves thrives in that
Apparently.
trio. Like I don't know what it is, like getting to the net, giving them that much more space to work on the back end, create a little bit more of that chaos. I really like that. And Martin Necas thrives on having that space available to him. When you've got Cale Makar, who really likes to utilize his space on the back end. When you've got Nathan McKinnon going zoom everywhere too, that limits a lot of Martin Necas and giving him the ability to work off of Brock Nelson, who isn't stagnant per se, but knows when to give that space where it's necessary.
It's only one puck in OT.
Yeah, it works.
You asked if that's like the nail in the coffin. That coffin's been 6 feet deep already. Like
for the Avsosphere.
They
but
dig it back out.
For Jared Bednar, that coffin's never, the zombie's
it's an
always
undead
getting out
zombie
of that.
for sure, absolutely. That grave keeps getting robbed, but no, that coffin is 6 feet deep.
No, there are permanent little dirt stains on that thing from where Bednar keeps digging it back up and burying it again.
Buries it with a crowbar.
You put that like right underneath the surface of the dirt. You're like, we can pull this back up. It's fine. No, that's. I like when he can step away from the norm a little bit, try out these different things, and again, that's what we've been talking about for the last couple games too. Is this is their experimental period?
Yep.
Right. They've got the playoff spot, or at least a spot in the playoffs secured.
Yep.
Now is the time where you start tinkering, figuring out, okay, how can we put the finishing touches on what we already know to be a good hockey team.
Yeah.
And if that's what you can do and realize that, you know, McKinnon, Necas, Makar can work for you sometimes, you can be much more effective when you spread out that talent and put out a complete set of 3 players.
Yeah, and obviously the Avs were able to end it reasonably quickly in overtime, but I do think you felt a little bit more comfortable because if they don't score on that, you can roll out another line of Landeskog and whichever center you want. Maybe you run McKinnon back out there. Maybe you give Drury a gun out there. Maybe you go with Waugh even. Or Kadri, who's not playing center but is a center. Like, the Avs have gone from, you pretty much had McKinnon, Nichushkin, Nelson, and Necas, and those were your only real 4 forwards that you trusted in overtime. to all of a sudden you have like 6, 7, 8 guys now, and you still haven't even gotten someone like Lehkonen back.
Yeah. Do want to touch on the impact of those guys here in the final period. But before we get to that final period, we got one more ad break to take. So let's shout out another one of our sponsors.
Bet365, baby!
Yeah!
I don't think my bets did very well today, but that's okay. Sometimes
Doesn't always work
the
out.
bets don't hit, but you still watch the Avs win. So you take a dub. Also, if you bet on a Landy goal, you probably did great today. So maybe you should have done that. Whatever you do with Bet365. They're an official partner of the Colorado Avalanche. And right now, when you sign up with code DNVR365, you can get $365 in bonus bets. All you have to do, put $10 in your account, bet that $10. Don't even have to hit the bet. Just because you bet $10 on a new account with the DNVR365 code, you get $365 in bonus bets. So that's free money to play with. Bet on what you want, whether it's the emotional hedge against the Avs or betting for the Avs. It works either way. There's never been a better time to prep for the playoffs with Bet365, where winning is everything. Download that app. Use that DNVR365 code when you sign up today. And of course, when you do gamble with Bet365, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. The $10 minimum deposit is required for the $365 in bonus bets.
Third period of the DNVR Avalanche postgame show brought to you by our sponsor in Bet365. Before I get into some of the impact of maybe some returning players here in the next couple games, I want to touch back on Nick Waugh.
Yes.
Do we... What is the final consensus on him? Because we've seen him at wing, we've seen him at center. Where seems to be the sweet spot for a guy like him?
I don't know that I care, ultimately.
Fair.
Because the things he is helping the Avs with, I don't think it really matters if he's a center or a wing. Now, you could probably dig deeper into the numbers and say, well, face-offs, you want him to be a center, this, that, the other thing. But goal scoring in your depth is exactly what someone like Nick Waugh was brought in to do. And guess what? He's done that. He's the guy who breaks the Avs' schneid of depth scoring here in this game. And it's not complicated stuff. Nick Waugh has 3 goals with the Avs, and go look where all of them come from. Directly in front of the net.
Yep.
Go to that spot. I don't care if you're a center or a wing. Go to that spot. Do your thing in the offensive zone. Awesome.
He was one of those players today where, as you mentioned, this is a game for everybody that's really not moving at full speed.
Yep.
But it's very evident today just what kind of skater Nick Waugh is. Not a guy who's particularly fast, doesn't really fit into the system that way. But when you're talking about getting into those gritty areas, making himself a known presence in the middle of the ice,
Yep.
you can't really ask for much more, especially when he's not just surviving, but thriving there for the Avs.
Yeah, it's been great. And I think especially important to note, Waugh had been playing at least part-time in the top 6 the last handful of games, just because the Avs were missing 4 guys and they needed bodies to fill that 6th spot. And he's not a top 6 guy. He's probably in over his head if you're asking him to play on the second line wing.
Yep.
And you move him back down to the bottom 6, and he immediately produces for you. When he's where he's supposed to be in the lineup, he immediately does good stuff. It's not hard math to add up. Even for me, who can't count to 9, I can figure out that Nick Waugh makes sense in the Avs' bottom 6.
And I think I really like this, too, for the sake of somebody like Gavin Brindley, who you make up for a lot of that speed with when you put them on a line together.
Also thought he was good tonight. Not great, but good.
No, I mean, but who was, like, when you're talking about that bottom 6, like, was your good one.
True.
But outside of that, like, nobody's standing out that much except for Gavin Brindley when he can throw on turbo like that. And that works when you've got a guy like Nick Waugh on your team, and that it's a nice balance there, I think.
Yeah, I at 5-on-5, for most of the bottom 6, but other than Nick Waugh, and then for 4 PKs, a lot of your bottom 6 guys are part of that and doing a really good job there for you. So credit where credit's due. Zakhar Bartikov also gets an assist on the Nick Waugh goal. It's a weird one, but hey, when you're getting a point in the bottom 6 right now for the Avs, you'll take it any way you can get it. And Nick Waugh helps you get those points very clearly. He's no slouch on the defensive end either, but that goal scoring has just been so importantly needed from the Avs side of things. Also, chat, 3 more likes and we get winner shots. You can do it.
Just saying. No, I think it's interesting too, bringing up Zakhar Bardakov. He felt like a player to me today. Again, not great. I mean, again, a point is a point, which he needs all of them that he can get.
Yeah.
If he's still trying to make a name for himself and keeping up with a top team like the Avalanche. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't know. He's in this weird spot for me where he just seems like he's trying to do a little too much.
I think you are correct. He sees the writing on the wall. He knows he's going out of this lineup when a couple of guys
It's bound to make a guy a little frantic.
get healthy. And I think there is a little bit too much there at times. But when he's at his best, there is a little bit of chaos in his game too. And, he ultimately only plays 4.5 minutes in this game and still finds a way to get a point. Like, that's the job. Unfortunately, that's the role. When you're a fourth line, hard fourth line guy, they don't trust on the penalty kill. They don't really trust in those defensive situations. You're going to have nights where you don't play a lot of ice time and you're going to have to find a way to be effective. And he hasn't done enough of that this season, unfortunately, even though it's been really close sometimes. Maybe he gets a point that is a little bit silly tonight, but he's earned over the course of the last handful of games.
You mentioned some of that, due to injury, this is probably the first guy to go type situation. It is a snail race for the Avs injuries returning, but slowly but surely they're getting to that point. Saw Landy return today. It seems they're getting there. Again, slowly but surely. Looks like LOC could possibly be the next guy out there. I mean, Ross Colton is skating, so is Arturi Lehkonen, but
it's so hard. They could be skating for 3 more weeks, or they could be good to go tomorrow. Like, you just don't know.
I asked you this after the Chicago game. I'm gonna steal my own question, ask you again tonight.
Yeah.
Of the 3 guys missing, who do you miss most in a game like
now
this?
Now that Landy's back, I think it's probably Lehkonen. You could make an argument for LOC too, but especially when you look at how that second line played in regulation, you drop Lehkonen into your top 6 as well, and then you just get a little bit more of that consistency going, a little bit more flexibility down your lineup, a little bit more hunting matchups, although the Avs were the away team, but you can still kind of hunt matchups. That is the type of thing that, especially when you have a guy who's going like Landy, and then if you get Lecky going, winning some of those puck battles, sometimes a couple more of those guys going can lasso McKinnon into it and be like, McKinnon will be like, all right, let's go do this. But as it stands, all 3 of those guys that are still out do make the Avs better. Like, none of them would be like, hey, that's back, that's fine. All of them, you'd be like, yes, let's go. The Avs are getting better. Their lineup looks better. Everything fits better. These are meaningful exclusions from the Avs lineup, and the expectations only go up when each one of them comes back.
Chat talking about it a little bit too, but with Ross Colton coming back in, it's a difficult conversation for me because the production hasn't quite been there. But there are things to be valued for what he does off of the puck. That's something Bednar talks about all the time, is people have a tendency to look at that production as an end-all be-all for a player. And I don't know if it's that superficial with a guy like Ross Colton. You want it.
In between. Do you want more production? For sure. But he also does other things. $4 million probably feels a little bit expensive for him, but that's no longer a problem. Contracts are no longer important for the Avs at this point in the season. You're past the trade deadline. You're not saving that cap for anything. It's just go out and put your best lineup out there, and Ross Colton is in your best lineup. There's no doubt about that. He's great at being a pest. Despite the goal-scoring lack thereof, he still creates numerous good chances in the offensive zone all the time, especially when he's playing on your third line against maybe a little bit weaker competition. You need that. It's not just about, every line has to score all the time. Yes, you need some. You can't go 6 games with your depth not scoring, but also your depth's job is to wear other teams down, grind them out. In a 7-game series, a guy like Ross Colton who's going to go hard against you every single shift, it makes a difference.
Yep. I'll drink to that. We got to our winner's shots, you
Yep.
guys. Thank you so much for getting us to over 100 likes. I've got to reach forward for mine.
Yeah, you don't have a stand over
No
there.
table.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers, Dr. Dubs, chat. Enjoy your medicine.
You know what these shots make me excited for, Rudo?
What's that?
A takeover at Ball Arena. We got one coming up, you guys. I don't know. It's we don't do them very often, so when we do, you got to get in on them.
Landy's back. The Avs are probably getting another guy back on this road trip. And then they're going to come home, and we're going to take over, and we're going to watch a really good version of the Avs.
Yep.
Probably going to be a pretty meaningful game against the Jets, where 2 points are going to be a big deal against whatever Dallas has done in that stretch. Mm-hmm. If it's good for Dallas, you need the 2 points to keep pace. If it's bad for Dallas, those 2 points could be like clinching material.
Yeah. So, got one coming up against the Winnipeg Jets on March 28th. There's
join
still
us.
tickets,
Yeah.
you guys. We've still got a lot of tickets. I am actually pretty free. I will be at Ball Arena for this one, but I can come hang out with you guys, which I haven't really been able to do for the last takeovers. So I'm really excited. I want to see you guys.
Do it. Hang with Bailey. I'll be there. Micah will be there. I'm sure Nick will come say hi.
So be sure to go check out those takeover tickets at thednvr.com/events. It's a fun time.
Always a
you get to
blast.
see the Avs maybe win more
Plus,
games like they did today.
The part they don't tell you, free beers on the party bus to and from the bar. So
I can't be part
literally
of that. But
free
you guys,
alcohol in an Avs game. What's not to love?
yeah, nothing. Everything. There's everything to love about that. Yeah, it's really hard for me to judge a game like this, right? Because
Yep.
in the importance and grand scheme of things, this probably was not a huge game for not huge in the grand scheme of like must win, but also you're looking at Dallas today,
Yep.
who can clinch the second playoff spot in the league.
If they win against Vegas. And, Dallas dropped a point the other night, and you get 2 as the Avs today. So you converted 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
Good job. You were 1 point better than Dallas in this game.
Yep.
And no, when we get to the end of the season, no one's going to remember, you remember that really sleepy game against Washington that they won? That really made the difference. No one's going to see it that way.
Yep.
But every 2 points counts the same. From the start of the season to the end of the season, every 2 points you get is 2 points, whether you beat Edmonton 9-1 or you sleepwalked through Washington 3-2.
Yeah. Simple as that. It's one I'm sure maybe Bednar doesn't have close eye on, but I mean, as we've kind of mentioned, players are on their phones. Players see the standings.
Yep.
I'm sure there's a lot of talk about Dallas potentially being that team tonight, as long as they get a point against Vegas. It's
I mean,
the race is close.
The Avs could use Dallas slipping a little bit. If they lose today, that would feel really good. But I don't think they will.
Nope. It's looking at this, it's an or situation. If they end up losing to Vegas, they could still clinch that spot if Utah loses.
And I mean, they're going to
And
clinch.
it's-
Whether it's today or tomorrow.
Right. It's a
like-
matter of when, not if, for these guys. But something I'm sure a lot of people in the Avs-osphere, players included, kind of have their eye on. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah, for sure.
in the grand scheme of things, too, I mean, not that we look too closely at the East, but this puts the Washington Capitals 1 point closer to potentially getting into their playoff spot. So, and I feel like that was pretty evident in a game like this, too, where, yes, they technically sold at the deadline,
Yeah.
but also knowing that they can bring a team like the Avalanche this close
Yeah.
might give them a little bit of hope.
I mean, you're not out of it until you're out of it. That's certainly how the players will look at it, regardless of how their management feels. I think it's really tough for them to realistically get back in. The East is a bloodbath, and there's just too many teams ahead of them that are winning as consistently or more consistently than them. It'll be interesting to see. It could go one of two ways with Washington, right? Did Ovi's 1,000th goal Is that mission accomplished and we can tank the rest of the season? Or is that, hey, we got OBS Thousands goal. We can play a little bit free now. We don't have to think about this, and maybe they start winning more. It could go either way.
Yeah.
The East is just such a nightmare. I'm glad it's not a thing that I have to think about that much with the Avs.
I mean, we've got that Central Division gauntlet to think about instead, though.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a give and take, I guess, in this league. Moving away from some of the standings things, want to get back into some of the second line conversation.
Yep.
Talked a little bit about Brock Nelson and some of the kind of wishy-washy play from him recently. At what point does Valeri Nichushkin become a problem?
I don't think it's a problem, but I do think you need to understand where you're at in your lineup. Because at this point, and like, obviously he wasn't very good today, but I'm willing to chalk a lot of the guys that weren't great today up to weird matinee start, whatever, fine. With Landy coming back, with Lehkonen coming back, you should more than likely be looking at the way you're running your top six as Val is the sixth guy now. Because Landy has just been so good for you. And Lehkonen obviously has been great, comfortable playing with the top line. McKinnon and Natchez are obviously your top guys, and what you've gotten out of Nelson across the season is magnificently better than what Valenchushin has given you, certainly offensively. So Val's role doesn't really change mechanically in what he's doing, but instead of, hey, let's roll Val out on the top line more consistently, let's get him to 20 minutes on a night, maybe Val's the guy you're leaving at 17, 16 minutes a night in that top six that isn't quite playing as much as some of those other guys that you're getting a little bit more out of. And you can shelter him a little bit. Now, if you shelter him and he starts picking it up and everything starts clicking again, great, then play him more. But the Avs are deep enough that you don't have to force it with him.
I maybe don't disagree, but I'm at a point with Valeri Nichushkin. He's the idea of what he can bring to a lineup is a little too valuable for me to just kind of be complacent with some of the things that he's doing. And it would be different if this is not the game that it is, right? If Nichushkin's not the only one we're looking at and saying, he was meh tonight. But this has been
a little too consistent
the trend
on the offensive side for sure.
Yeah, I mean defensively too. Look at one of the goals for Washington that happens tonight.
That one's Val's been weird defensively lately a little bit. He was also kind of caught a little bit the other day on the goal that goes in for Chicago, but literally 10 seconds before that, he made a great defensive play. So it's like a little give and take. He was much better offensively against Chicago. He had some good net drives, but it hasn't been that consistency for him. And you saw again tonight, the puck management from him offensively has just not been good enough.
Yeah.
Too many pucks dying on his stick or flying off of his stick more accurately. But I think there's a balance to it. Like, he's part of that first unit on the overtime where they dominate the puck. They get multiple shots on net. There are good things there still where I totally fair to ask for more.
Yeah.
You want more. But I also don't think it's like a problem.
As far as concern levels go, like where do you put that on a scale?
2, 3 at worst. Like, it's just not something that I'm overly concerned about because a healthy Avs team, it just kind of, the ability to shelter whoever's having a bad night is immense in the Avs forward core. You can easily drop guys up and down the lineup. Oh, okay, Val's having a bad night. Oh, all right, we can move Kadri up if we have to. Or if when Lehkonen and Colton are back, we can move those guys up and down the lineup. Oh, Val's going in this game, looking a little bit better. Cool, we can move him back up the lineup. And you have plenty of guys that understand how to play in a third line role too. So obviously he can't get into the playoffs and ghost to the entire thing, but I'm not all that worried about that. I think Val will be just fine as far as stepping up that ability. We've seen him in previous playoffs when he's not doing dumb things off the ice. He can really get his game going when it comes to playoff hockey.
I think as far as playoff hockey goes. Like that's where the conversation is huge for me too.
Yep.
Is how much of this maybe kind of lull in his play translates to, because you see that transition from players all the time, is once that regular season ends, you're looking at a completely different player, a completely different style. And a lot of times players respond really quickly to something like that. And that's, I mean, is that the expectation for Valeri Nichushkin?
A little bit. You know, he doesn't have to get to the playoffs and go total beast mode, but it's fair to ask for more. It's fair to ask for him in the playoffs to be able to be that true. It's hard to call any winger an elite two-way player, but Val Nichushkin at his best.
He's about as close as it gets.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's the value you want to see when it comes to the playoff time. And if you get that, awesome. If you get not quite that, but close, great. If you get the wishy-washy Val, you're not going to love it.
In talking about playoffs, again, big conversation, goaltending.
Yeah.
How that works.
Yep.
How the Avs plan on rolling that out. And in a game like this one, makes you feel, I think, a little better at least, or at least somewhat okay with a version of Mackenzie Blackwood that you can get in playoffs. I know we talked a little bit about it before and saying, like, there's really nothing to blame him for in this one. Like, maybe you'd like to see him get the save on that Ovi goal, go short side. It's a little rough, but at the same time, this is another, I think, anytime you can get a win in the win, or another tick in the win column for a goaltender, especially like Mackenzie Blackwood, who thrives on a lot of that confidence and getting those wins, getting those reps, it's huge.
Yeah, even if you want one back, I don't know how you aren't happy with Blackwood tonight. He gave you a .909 save percentage. He gave up 1 goal at 5-on-5 and 1 goal across 10 minutes nearly of power play time. Like, that's more than respectable for any goaltender in the league. Got the job done in that regard. I've always said, 2 or less, goalie did his job. Mackenzie did the job tonight. Made a couple of great saves in the second and third period, too, in this game where you're waiting for the Avs to get the engine running a little bit. He made sure it never got out of hand. Washington's lead never got to more than 1.
Yep.
Is it a perfect night? No, but I think goalies get a little bit of unfair scrutiny when it comes to being perfect. You look at the skaters in any game, and no one ever has a perfect night, and that's fine. You deal with that. Goalies, sometimes the expectation is they have to pitch a shutout, and that's not reality. You're not going to do that very often. So when you make the saves you're supposed to, which Blackwood did, again, the goals against were a breakaway and an OV one-timer on the power play. There's not a lot of teams in the league that are going to sit there and say, yeah, no, you're supposed to stop those. If he faced 3 more breakaways and gave up 3 of them, yeah, then you have a problem.
It's a different conversation.
But he didn't do that. He's made the saves, and great. Good job on him to do what he needed to do. And again, when you're a Colorado Avalanche goaltender, you live in a world where you don't face a high volume of shots.
No.
Blackwood faced 22 shots total.
That was going to be the other
game.
point that I brought up, is like you're looking at the second game in a row where it's really not a huge workload for a guy like Mackenzie Blackwood.
So that's it. The Avs need a goaltender that makes the ones he's supposed to make. They do that, the Avs are going to win most nights.
Yep. They've gotten 2 so far on this road trip.
2-0.
They've got, I mean, that's about as good of a start as you can expect. Yes, they make you work for it a little bit in overtime, but 2-0 is a pretty great way to start off a 4-game road trip.
Yep. I said you got to go at least 3-1 on this road trip, and you're 2-0. So if you split the last 2, you did the job, and you have a chance to go perfect 4-0 on it instead, which would be great. You'd feel pretty darn good about that. And, you know, obviously the next Dallas game still looms, but if the Avs are taking care of their business, then Dallas just doesn't matter.
Yep. We've also got an upcoming matchup in the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team that they saw fairly recently. Did not go very well, but that's how you end off the 10-game segment. And it seemed it's hard to say bounce back game when you're looking at, you know, they're coming off of a 2-0 or like 2-0 start to the road trip. But at the same time, like
revenge will be on their mind for sure. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of a revenge game.
I think so.
You've got Crosby back in the lineup.
That'll get McKinnon going.
Yep. So, you got a chance to end off this 10-game stretch with on the right foot. You got that point streak.
And look, you're in a 10-game stretch where after last game, or rather after the Dallas game, you're saying, hey, the Avs have lost 4 of their last 5. If they beat Pittsburgh, then they go 6-3-1 in this stretch. And that losing 4 of your last 5 all of a sudden doesn't seem so bad.
No. Looking at a team that once went 10-0-0.
Yep.
In their stretch.
Twice.
So twice. So it's a team that has the capability of it. Not a whole lot to touch on, but I know we got a couple super chats to get to here. $2 from Ryan B1. Time slot F. Commentators F-. Watch along priceless. Watch alongs are always fun.
Yeah. We don't have to listen to the commentators here, so I dodged whatever that bullet was, but you can throw the cameraman on the F- train as well.
We talk about, maybe Valeri Danchushkin being a problem, but it seems like the camera work is something the NHL would be aware of.
You would think.
At this point.
It's not. It's like every building. They're all bad.
I don't even know how you fix it either. Like
automatic puck tracking cameras or something.
You need something there. And then $20 from Support Janus Care Services. Like all other great teams over the entire season, the Avs will continue through ups and downs. That's hockey. Looks like it will be a lot more up than down. Things are bright. You both enjoy a drink. We did.
Yeah.
It was great.
The shot was good.
Shot was wonderful. So thank you guys so much for those super chats. As we mentioned, not a whole lot of these early starts left in the tank for the Avs.
Just the Dallas game, I think.
Yeah. You've got that kind of, which is 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
I think.
not that early.
Not super early, but it's still a matinee start.
Yep.
Still, a pretty manageable schedule. Like we talked a little bit about this road trip, but from here on out, you end things with Seattle. You see Dallas one more time.
Yep.
I think you've finished Minnesota at this point.
Yeah, you're done.
It's hard to be. How much are the Avs really thinking about this next stretch? Again, you've got the whole 1 seed conversation, but at the same time, it's a fairly easy schedule for the Avs here on out.
Yeah, it really is pretty easy. You get St. Louis a couple of times, who's out of it at this point, and a couple of other easy teams. And
you got Calgary twice.
Yep, that's the balance goes back and forth because it does switch between, hey, we need to beat Dallas. These are teams we should beat. There's a little bit of pressure that we must win these games. But also, if the Avs take care of what they need to do and win some of those games, they set themselves up for, okay, we have the lead gap we need on Dallas, whatever it is. We can do some more of that experimenting. If guys need rest, we can rest those guys. If we rattle things off, maybe you get a little bit of luck and Dallas loses to a Vegas or they drop a couple of points and you can say, hey, we don't have to rush any of our injured guys back. If you need an extra day, that's fine. Take care of what you need to take care of because ultimately all that matters through the rest of this stretch, of course you want to win the President's Trophy. Of course you want to give yourself the best seed. But the most important thing with 13 games left in this season for the Avalanche is everybody be healthy for the playoffs.
Yeah, that's end all be all. And as we've mentioned, with the depth that this team possesses, we're looking at having a conversation about 3 guys in Bardakov, Yoel Kiviranta, and Gavin Brindley being your odd men out. If you're talking about at least 2 of those 3 guys being your 13th forward, you're in a fantastic spot for the playoffs.
There are plenty of lineups where those guys would be starters. Mm-hmm. And the Avs are deep enough when healthy that they're not.
Yeah.
That's a luxury not many teams have.
Yep. I don't know as though I have a whole ton left to add for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only really thing left to add as we're getting out of here in a minute is, look, the Avs are a team that are finding ways to win when it matters. Yes, they lost against Dallas, and yes, you would much rather have had them win that game. But when you go into the playoffs, it's not about winning the games where you play your best. Those are a given. You win those ones. It's about winning the games where you're not playing your best and neither is your opponent. And who's going to grit it out, who's going to gut check it, and who's going to get it done. And you don't have to like the way it looks. I certainly didn't like the way a good portion of this game looked.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if you do the job and you get the W, then it counts exactly the same as your best game.
Yeah. They did the job today. They get a day off. We do not have a day off, though. We've got an off-day pod coming at you guys tomorrow on Monday. And then we're right back at it with another game.
Games.
Yeah, every other day it's looking like we got one more 2-day break.
Yeah, and
for the rest of the regular
April
season.
is the
And
last
then
one.
it really starts kicking into gear for us. But yeah, whatever happens here the next couple days, we'll be here to break it down, give you guys the content you oh so crave. Until then, though, this has been the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by Bet365. We'll see you guys next time.
We all silly like the mayor.